Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to Deservingly You.
Welcome in. Thank you for being here. My heart is full of joy and appreciation and gratitude for you, everyone present. Thank you.
Yep. I completely agree. And so glad to hear. And you guys may notice John and I got our hair cut this week. So we feel all pumped there. Although I told her I felt like I was like about a 12-year-old boy with the way that my hair was. It was so long. It was just not like what I normally have. And so got this, and I told her I didn't want second grade bangs, and I think she still kind of gave me second grade bangs. I like the spiky bangs, and she kind of did that. But you guys can let me know. Let us know what you think of our haircuts. Thank you.
My barber in North Carolina, he was great, but I need to go to a barbershop, not a styling salon, and have a man cut my hair.
And I miss my talented girl that I went to for over 20 years in Seattle. I could just go in and go have fun. And she always had me coming out feeling very empowered and felt really good about myself, and always awesome color and everything. Great story though with some of the colors and stuff. We'll save it for another day, but got in trouble with the organization or the congregation at one point because of the color. So, but that was fun. But that we're not going to go there. We're going forward, and tonight we've got the topic and the series that we're going to be introducing tonight is inspired by training that John and I have gone through. It's inspired by Brendan Burchard, our coach. You see him like in our intro and stuff, the picture where it's me, John, and the guy, that's our coach. And so this training, we've learned so much from him. And so that's why we take from him, and it's been so powerful in our life. And so we want to help other people learn as well. So with that, yes, I love the reminder, have the journal ready, because that's how you can jot down some of those ideas and how you can integrate it into your into your whole body. So
questions as well that you might want clarification on. Yep. At the end.
Yeah. So once again, welcome to Deservingly You. As many of you know that are with us every week, this is a space where we explore what it means to rebuild after control, where we reclaim our agency and we live with steadiness instead of urgency. My name is Shannon Avery Briggs. I'm a certified transformational resilience coach, and with Luminous Connections, that is the company that we co-founded.
I'm John Briggs, also certified transformational resilience coach, co-founder, Luminous Connections. Our work here is rooted in lived experience. Okay, we know what it's like to lose your internal reference point, so to speak. Okay, and to have your reactions shaped by pressure, your relationships complicated by fear, and your energy just slowly drained out over time. And we also know what it takes to rebuild stability from the inside out.
Yep. And like we said, we're beginning a new conversation, a new series, and we're going to kind of split it up like what we did before. We're going to be talking about calibration, and we're focusing on 2 skills that actually can quietly change everything. Now, these aren't specific techniques or personality traits. They're actually learned capacities that we have, and they are skills that allow you to stay present with yourself as well as stay connected with others, because that is really, really important to be able to do that.
And, these skills, they shape how you move through your life. Especially when life feels heavy, unpredictable, or demanding. They determine whether you react or respond. Okay. Whether you contract inward or remain engaged.
Yep. So if our conversations resonate with you, we really want to invite you to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because as you all know, with the YouTube world, this actually helps it reach others who are searching for that same clarity and steadiness that you are. So it definitely helps you, and it helps other people.
And as we move forward through the program tonight, we'll create space for direction, um, reflection, and participation, and at a pace that honors you and where you're at. You know, in your nervous, so your nervous system can respond um, with your timing. You know, that's good for you.
Yep. So let's go ahead and set the stage. We want to make sure that we pause and set the tone each week, and identify how we're holding the space. Now, Deservingly You is intentional by design. It's that place for growth, for reflection, and realignment. It's not urgency, not pressure, and not performance.
And think of it as this is a social learning, environment. You're not here to prove anything. You're not here to have it all figured out. And that's never a requirement. It's just a process, not a destination. You're here to notice what's actually happening for you, and to let clarity just emerge in real time and unfold right in front of you.
Yeah. We definitely want to encourage you guys to participate in the chat. And what that might look like is sharing a reflection, a question, or even a word. We're going to be doing a little bit of scoring tonight. So it might be a number when we pause for around that part. And often some of the most powerful moments come from hearing what others are learning and what is landing for them.
We want to name this clearly. Listening is also also participating, but presence matters, and the more available you are to this moment, the more useful and supportive this time becomes for you and everyone else.
Yeah. And like we said, make sure you have your notebooks, because when you write it down, it helps integrate it. It actually helps us to slow our mind and give insight to where one of those ideas that you might have, one of those ahas, it kind of gives it a place to land.
And if you're able to name anything that you feel inside your body, that might be causing some adversity. Remember the term "name it to tame it." If you can if you can recognize it, then you can work on it. So with that intention set, let's begin by looking at why collaboration matters and why most people were never taught how to do that in the first place. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I hope you're making something good. So there have been way too many days where we shut ourselves down, and days where we showed up, but it wasn't fully. We did what was required of us, but we don't feel alive. And somewhere inside, there's that quiet knowing and that desire where you might say to yourself, I could live with some more clarity. I could live with more playfulness. I want more presence. And having that desire and that impulse really matters.
Yes, it does. And at this time of year, most people, they just default or fall back on lists, right? A list of goals, resolutions that they set for themselves, quick fixes or long-term goals like that. But what we're offering here is different. Now, this series isn't about doing more; it's about becoming more coherent.
Yeah. So, you guys may not have heard this presented this way as protocols, and this actually can be a transformational experience. This is we're going to be building on some of these practices, and this set of practices is actually designed to bring you into a higher level of calibration. And this is both internally, so inside ourselves, as well as relationally, so how we are interacting with other people. A lot of times we'll hear people talk about recalibrating, and they can do that a lot. But the truth of it is, many of us were never taught even how to calibrate in the first place. Instead, we end up being taught how to react or how to comply, especially coming out of high controlled environments. We're taught how to push through, and we're not taught to pause and to sense and to choose.
Yeah. You might even feel like your day went well. Okay. And you still sense there's something you haven't tapped into. That doesn't mean that you're ungrateful. It just means you're aware. Like I said before. As we often say on this channel, awareness is the beginning of change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we definitely want this series to be supportive, but we also we want to start pushing you guys a little bit more, and we hope that it's going to challenge you. But this isn't by pushing harder; it's actually inviting you to step into a deeper level of yourself. There is more available to you, and you don't have to force it to access it. But one of the things that you do, and you've heard John and I say this before, one of the things that you do have to do is that you do have to do the work. We wouldn't be where we're at today. John and I would not have been able to make the transition as easily as we had if we had not done the work. And so it is really important.
Yes, indeed. And tonight we begin by naming what most people were never taught, and why 2 specific skills can change everything.
Now, most of us don't fail from the lack of desire. We actually fail the sequence. So we try to change our life before we see it clearly. There's that push and there's that effort and the fix. But what ends up happening with that, we actually experience more frustration. But the thing is that this isn't about you. This is actually the order.
Yeah. Calibration interrupts. Okay. It pauses the rush and asks one question: what's actually happening here? Not assuming, not training, just what's real.
Yeah. So I want to, oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
Just what came to mind just then was what we recently heard from Brendan Richard, our mentor and coach, was that a lot of people, they have these goals like what we've just been talking about and aspirations, but their preferences don't change. I know it's maybe a topic for another day, but that's something to think about.
We actually are going to get into that in one of the later one of the later episodes of the series. But I want you to think about some of the times that you have set goals, and how many times did you go ahead and jump into the action before you got really, really clear about the direction that you were going? See, that is backwards. That's upside down. The sequence really matters. We need to gain clarity first, and then we take action.
Yeah. And when you see clearly, the choice returns. Okay. No more urgency driven reactions. Okay. No more being on autopilot and reacting to everything with impulse and emotion. And you're able to take a step back, do some self-talk, take a pause, breathe, maybe revisit it later if you need to, or even as it unfolds right in front of you.
Yeah. So last week we did a little practice of choosing 3 words of who we wanted to be, how we wanted to show up. We want to do that again tonight. I want you to take a moment and think of 3 words of how you want to show up this year. How do you want to be with yourself as well as with other people? If we can drop those in the chat, think about them. What about you, John? What are 3 words? How do you want to show up this year?
Talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Okay. Authentic, genuine, and just empathetic.
Mm.
You know, I mean, those words they're not set in stone either. Meaning they can change. You know, sometimes there's 5 words right in front of me, but I just want to, you know, respond from the heart and be authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be connected. I want to be bold, and I want to be empowered. So part of the reason that I want to be connected is because of moving across the country again within 2 years. I want to build my community. I want to have those people that I can experience life with, and you'll kind of hear a little bit more in this in later in this episode, even the importance of community. And so so that's one of the ones that I've got as well. So would love to hear what your guys' words are in the chat.
Remember, don't be shy. Other people might need a little boost to see what you got to put out there, because you know it's a social learning in this environment. So, you know, here it says that most people weren't taught to calibrate, right? Or it's not even a learned behavior. They were taught to react, as you know, like we've said.
Yeah, and included in that reaction, that can be we're taught to adapt, we're taught to comply, we're taught to push through. That was the way that our training went.
Yeah. Very few were taught how to just pause, right? Take a breath and assess what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not what should be happening, but what's expected. What's real.
Yeah. So John says he's making changes slowly. It doesn't have to be fast. That's for sure. So like my John was just saying, it's not what should be happening and not what's expected. That's why calibration isn't just a common sense thing. The other thing too is that it's not an instinct. It's not our personality. It actually is a learned skill. And we can have that reclaimed. And what that ends up being, if you remember last week too, where we talked about that signal, the snapping our fingers, in a sense, you're giving yourself a signal, as well as your internal sequence, having things in the right sequence.
You know, without collaboration or calibration, I meant to say.
There you go. Thanks.
Yeah. The pattern is it's predictable without calibration. You know, the effort spikes, okay, but the clarity drops, okay, over time. Yeah.
And the other thing too is when we don't have calibration, our decisions become more difficult. They can even feel like distorted in a sense, and we also get that sense of feeling, and we can feel it right now with some of the craziness that's going on out in the world. Everything can feel urgent, or it can feel impossible for us to move on. And you end up also, without having this sense of calibration, you end up working harder, and then, but yes, you're less oriented.
Yeah. You know, that's when energy it gets pulled into, you get pulled into survival mode, okay, so to speak. And you know, you're managing pressure, you're containing all the noise, not thinking strategically, you know, just getting through the moment, like, you know, we're just reacting to every little thing. So, you know, so the real question becomes this: how do we learn to calibrate?
Yeah. So that's where we're going to go next. We're going to start building on that foundation, like what we were talking about. John used one of those words, strategically. So being able to be strategic and deliberate as we're building ourselves up and getting stronger, helping ourselves to be stronger so that we can be resilient. Ultimately, that's what we want to be able to do, is to have a life where we feel alive and also be able to be strong enough to be resilient and moving forward.
You know, by developing these two skills, you may not have considered it in this way, though.
Yeah.
So here's the shift. Calibration isn't something that you do just one time, right? It's something that you build over time, and then you're able to maintain it, you know, by doing the work.
Yeah. So it's the work. So it doesn't build itself through little tricks or tactics. It's actually through our capacity and building on that capacity.
Yeah. You know, and capacity, to go along with that, capacity to stay with yourself and just be present. Okay. When something, you know, triggers you or activates something inside you, like when criticism hits or fear spikes, stay present. You're able to do that in real time, you know, without having to escape somewhere, or physically, or whether physically or in your head, or, you know, change the subject, or however that looks for you.
Yeah, that's one of the things that when we're trained in our nervous system is in that reaction, just automatic. And a lot of times you can see that like in some of the communities that have left and who are still in a lot of pain from coming out of those high controlled environments. Little things can end up being something that activates or triggers you. And so we have a tendency to just automatically go into that reaction mode. We automatically pick up the phone to hit a response and say something instead of pausing and being like, what really needs to be said here? And so when we start building that capacity to connect to ourselves authentically as our true selves.
Yeah. You know, most people think growth, it breaks down because they lack motivation. You know, that's rarely true, actually. You know, what's actually missing is a skill, you know, coping skills, you know, specifically these two: self-leadership and relational or social influence. We're going to get into that. You know, one governs how you relate to your internal world, and the other, it governs how you relate to people. Yeah.
And when either one of these is underdeveloped, life can feel a lot harder than it needs to be. And when they actually grow together, though, calibration becomes more natural.
And this is where we're heading next.
Yeah. So John and I were actually talking about a certain quarterback this last week. We've been watching the games. And you can actually see this in real life where it's like these are so intertwined and work so much together. If they're out of balance, your life, like what we were talking about, like the decisions are harder and challenges come up. This particular person had focused so much on his self-command and what he was kind of in his own world. He attempted to make it look like he had an open door, but he actually didn't. It was all about him. And from some of the news reports and stuff, they talked about how he had been coached by his coaches to have more of that team spirit kind of thing and work more with his team members. But you can see, because of the fact that he had neglected that relationship or societal influence, he ended up it ended up costing him in other ways. So these are two really, they're skills. Like we said, this isn't a personality trait or tricks or anything like that. These are skills. We build up our own self-leadership or our self-command, how we command ourselves, as well as the way that we interact socially and with our relationships. And it's hard, coming out of the high controlled environments, because that, especially like with both of these, are a challenge because we were never taught to really command ourselves. We were taught to let other people command us. And in regards to relationship, there was also, they were superficial, as well as they came with rules and guidance. And so it came at a cost. So these are new skills that a lot of us coming out of those high environments, those high controlled environments, need to develop.
Yes, indeed. And when we say self-leadership, we're not talking about willpower, okay? Or white knuckling your way through life, okay?
Yeah, most people have been taught that leading yourself means that we're hard on ourselves. We like beat ourselves up. Like there's some phrases and stuff that if I really thought about it, they'd probably come back to me. I'm not going to go there though, but it's more about like, I got to correct myself. I got to push myself. I've got to tighten those reins. But the thing is that that's not leadership. That's actually pressure. We're pressuring ourselves.
Yeah. Self-leadership, it starts earlier than behavior. Okay. It starts with just paying attention, and being aware.
Yeah. Because ultimately we want the energy, right? And so wherever our attention goes to, that's where our energy is going to go. And then where your energy goes, your life begins to be shaped. So I want to see before you, are these kind of any new ideas to some people?
No, they were for me.
Yeah, it was to me too. It also made me excited though. And so Leonard said he was raised to just let things go and sweep it under the rug. That is an example of other people guiding you, other people deciding what needs to go. What goes under the rug. The other people are telling you. This is more about you stepping in to your own self leadership. So sorry, John.
Yeah, definitely. Letting things go and sweeping it under the rug is a very broad, thing but yeah, I get that. And it causes a lot of internal pressure, resentment, right? And you're just kind of suppressing all these feelings. And I think that's very common, okay, in a high control environment, obviously. And that causes a lot of anger and bitterness, hatred. And that's what a lot of this work that we do here is targeted at, to work through and process. Yeah, definitely. And when your attention is constantly just pulled outward, by some sort of urgency, some noise, other people's expectations, you stop generating your own life.
Yeah.
Okay, and you start postponing it, or you continue to postpone, your own life. Like I said, yeah.
Yeah, I think Leonard gave a really good example of living by other people's expectations, that letting things go or sweeping it under the rug, that's other people's expectations. That would, you have to decide that. And so that's what self-leadership is, that capacity to stay present with yourself before you respond. And this doesn't have to be done in perfection either. And it's not about control. Once again, it's about being present.
Yeah. And that's what creates agency. All right. Not some sort of conditions that have been placed on it by you or someone else. not some sort of certainty, or perfectionism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you start leading that inner world, that inside of you, and you don't need the environment to cooperate in order to move deliberately, we actually can take that moment and to be very aware of what's going on inside. So I want to do something here without overthinking, or this is just a quick check-in. I want you to look at the way that you have, how you've been in your own self-leadership. And I want you to, and this is not a judgment, this is just a number, but I'd like you to score yourself between from a 1 to a 10, with 1 being on the lower end, 10 being on the higher end. This is not judgment. This is just like where kind of get a feel. And where would you score yourself? Now with you, John, where would you score yourself with self-leadership?
Probably somewhere in between a 7 and 8.
Okay.
There's always room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And for me I don't know if I'll ever be a 10, right? Because I'm not a fortune teller, but for me, a 10 being the absolute highest, that would mean there's no room for improvement.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I'll ever be there.
Yeah.
I hope not. I just want to stay humble and teachable.
That's the other thing too. Remember how we said this doesn't stay. This isn't stuck. This is kind of like how you are right at this moment. So it is, when I do get the opportunity again, that I want to present the question to our coaches, especially with people who have experienced perfection for so much, or like had that be such a strong piece in our life. How can you confidently give yourself a 10 without having, thank you, Dee Dee, without having that sense of, ooh, that's perfect number. I probably, for me, when I did this training, when we went through this training, we'd been going through a lot. And so I felt like I was more of a 4, actually, with where I was. And it had to do with, how am I eating? How am I sleeping? And am I doing that when I have my what I want to accomplish that day? Am I getting those types of things done? And this isn't about, like I said, this isn't to judge you. It's just like kind of checking in and saying, okay, how am I doing? So, so we've got 5s and 7s. Those are great numbers.
I actually do think someone could be a 10 in the moment or for a day, or yeah. I know I'd have.
Yeah.
But as things unfold, as the week unfolds or the month, those numbers definitely fluctuate in any given category.
Well, we're actually encouraged with one of the tools that John and I have. We actually are encouraged to score ourselves on certain things for every day. And this isn't to judge ourselves at all. It's more about like, hey, what's going on at that point in time? Is there something I need to pay attention to? Am I not sleeping as well? Those types of things. So thank you for participating, everybody that participated. We're going to do it again here in a second too.
Thank you. Yes, appreciate that.
Because self-leadership definitely anchors you. And from that place, you don't just let relationships happen. You actually start choosing who and how you want to engage with them. So we're going to talk about relational influence now, and that's connecting intentionally without, and the biggest piece about this that I think my biggest aha was not losing yourself over.
Thank you for picking that up, Shannon. I kind of lost my place.
No worries.
That's all right. And relational influence is not popularity. Okay. It's not being well known well liked or widely approved by anyone, because I mean, there's always going to be haters out there, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're kind of using both relational influence as well as social influence, kind of as a similar term. It's the ability to stay authentic, connected, and generative with others. And while we're doing this, like we said, you're not losing yourself. The other thing too is we're not performing, and we're not disappearing. We're not, and I guess that's another way of saying you're not losing yourself.
Yeah. Most people, especially coming out of high control groups, we're taught to manage relationships through approval. Okay. Mm-hmm. I read the room, so to speak, or just adapt, blend in, be part of the echo chamber, keep the peace, and that's not influence. You're just abandoning yourself when in that type of atmosphere.
Yeah. Yep. And so if we go back to the self-leadership, when that is missing, then relationships have a tendency to swing to extremes. We may start over accommodating for the people in the room, or we also could end up pulling away. Either of these situations, our energy ends up leaking out.
And life it's co-created, right? Like meaning, creativity, and growth doesn't happen in isolation. If that makes sense, they happen through connection, and but only when that connection is mutual. Yeah.
And so when we get a good feeling about this, and calibration actually helps you change how you relate. You're going to start noticing the people who actually expand you. So for an example, just recently, there were some people that I had been introduced to, and I was encouraged to talk about certain things. And I always, when I came away from there, I always felt smaller. And then when I would get around the people who we were working on projects together, and we could talk about the different things and the different things that we were learning, I would always feel, I'd feel empowered. I'd feel like an energy. I would feel upbuilt and stuff like that. And here, seeing the difference, it's like those were the people that I had. One person that with some of the things that I was working on that were really encouraging me, don't give up, don't give up. Whereas these other people were like, oh, just go do this other thing. It's too hard, or, stuff like that. So you want those people that are going to build you up, the people who contracts with you, and that help you feel more like yourself. So when you come away from different people, and if you feel less, that's where, like, taking that time and being able to pay attention to the way that you're feeling, and asking yourself, really being open and honest, let's peel back the layers and figure out what it is that is making me feel this way. Because the people, when you have that relational influence, that and that social connection, you're going to feel stronger. You're going to feel happier.
Yeah, that's real influence. It's not some sort of control, not charm. Just presence, real presence in real time. Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to do the little score thing again. I want to check in, and I want you to rate your relational or social influence from a 1 to 10. Not how social you are, but how true you feel when you're with others. How about you, Johnny? What's your score?
How the score I feel when I'm with others?
Mm-hmm.
Probably somewhere in between an 8 and 9.
Yeah.
I've been at a 10 before in the moment,
Yeah.
but you know, um, my quite my recent steady score, like over time. Yeah.
Yep. And I know, like, for me, I feel like I'm a higher right now too. This one I would score myself at more of a 7 or an 8. And part of that is because of the work that I recently did, where I really peeled back and said what's going on with these relationships where I feel less than. And so being able to look at that back then, it's like if you would have asked me about that um, a few months ago, it would have been probably about a 3. But now, because of the fact that I'm in more alignment with who I am and being able to be true to who I am when I'm with other people, it's definitely a higher score.
I put myself around people that common ground. Like when we had that dinner a few weeks back
Yeah.
in Tempe with people that
Yeah.
of the common story.
Yeah.
I really felt I could have sat there all night, and just chatted. I really
Yeah.
felt good.
You bring up a good point too, because like when you are in that kind of environment, time just goes like that. Whereas when you are in those environments where you're the lesser, you're not being true to you can't be true to yourself. The influence by the other people is making you be smaller. The time is going to tick. It's going to be really, really slow. So Leonard, you say you never felt accepted around people. The thing is, part of that is once again choosing the people that you're going to be around. You have a choice. You can make that choice of finding the people that actually build you up and that make you feel true to yourself.
Yes, we have a common saying, me and Shannon. Those just aren't our people.
Yeah.
When they want to talk down to us or try to talk us out of something
Yeah.
that we feel is truly meaningful. For example, we'll just say we've said to each other, "Those aren't our people."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things, once again, that's like, why do we score? Why would we want to do this? And it's just a benchmark. It's just data. We've talked about data before, and what it can help us to do is reveal those gaps. So like I was saying before, when I was being around more people that made me feel small, my score was lower because I didn't feel aligned. Whereas now when I'm around those people that do feel it's like, you just know that energy is there. The scores are higher. And so I could see that gap. So one of the in order to fix that is like recognizing that I needed to change the people that I was interacting with. So we've shared before, where our attention goes, our energy follows. And so those scores help to pull you present, and it can help you to generate those next steps. This is just awareness. It's just data. This isn't about punishing ourselves. It's just to do a check-in.
Self-leadership, it helps to steady you. And a racial influence, it expands you. And when those two collide together, right, and meet, that's where real momentum begins. Okay. But life does happen. Okay. Obstacles will come up. Adversity, definitely.
Yeah.
So here we see that life does happen. Like I said, adversity hits and the suppression cycle can begin. Even when you're doing your very best, out of left field, something will hit. Yep.
And so John mentioned that's a cycle. So what does that cycle look like? So adversity hits and you begin experiencing like depletion, and you're holding that up. But then we might start experiencing fatigue. We become both mentally and emotionally exhausted. And then when that gets too heavy, we'll start to withdraw. And we pull back, thinking that that's actually the best way to cope. And then after that, after that's been going on for a while, then we become indifferent. So we might say, why do we even try? Why do I even care? And we stop investing in ourselves as well as in our life. And one of the things that John and I have both been here. We have definitely felt like, what's the worth? Why are we even trying anymore?
Yeah. Here's a very important aspect to take into account, is that a lot of adversity doesn't come from just one huge event, right? It happens because we didn't practice self-leadership and social connection. Okay. Not because people are failing, but because, no one was taught how to do it.
Yeah.
It just never was demonstrated, and to them, or they just were never aware that it was possible.
Yeah. Treasure, you're right. With fatigue and withdrawal can also lead to feeling depressed or all alone. Yep, absolutely. And that's why remember we talked about the self leadership as well as the social influence. That's why we're talking about these two pieces as skills and developing them as skills, because that can help you, that along with when life does happen and adversity does happen, when we have a stronger foundation in these, then resilience can be is more easily attained. Doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. I don't want to say that at all, but it does make it to where it's not as difficult. So without those skills, pressure can feel like it compounds. And that's what, with you talking about feeling depressed and all alone, that is definitely an example of when that pressure can feel compounded and our energy is draining. And we start feeling like life is happening to you instead of with you.
Yeah, or for you, right? And that's the cycle right there. Yeah.
So when we start putting into practice of building our self-leadership and our social or relational connection, what that does is it interrupts that cycle.
So that pattern feels familiar to you, do me a favor and type one word in the chat: cycle.
Yeah.
I know it does for me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So we've talked about how we can get pulled down. So we've, even before that, it's like we talked about how this self-leadership and this social influence can be skills that we can develop and that we need to develop, and how adversity can hit and we get pulled down. So now what we want to do is we want to talk about how we can move up, because that's the way we want to be going.
Definitely. Move up out of this cycle, this pattern, right? Because life, it'll pull you down. Yeah. Adversity hits, sometimes quietly, sometimes all at once. And when it does, right, the pattern can show up fast and in a hurry. Okay, fatigue, withdrawal, indifference, all that.
So what pulls you back up? It's ambition. That's what's going to help you pull back in. And when we say ambition, a lot of times you can think of what initially when I was first learning all of this, when I would think about ambition, it was more like the guys on Wall Street or whatever. But no, this is more, it's not hustle and it's not pressure. What this is actually talking about is a conscious will. Having a conscious will. It's that choice to participate in our life on purpose.
Challenge isn't the problem. Challenge is normal. Because without any challenges, there is no opportunity for growth. So, the drain happens when those key skills they go offline, so to speak, right? Self-leadership and relational connection, like we talked about. When no one is actively directing the energy, right? It just kind of goes all over the place without any organization.
Yeah. So, and that's why too, ambition doesn't start with big, huge, giant goals. It actually starts with the energy generation. These are small, chosen practices that help us to restore that capacity. So, the things like sleep, moving your body, nourishing your body, connecting with real people, learning something that can expand you, even if it's a cooking class. Just we want to be continuing to learn. Also finding those things that genuinely excite you. And I know this can be a big challenge because, coming out of those high controlled environments, because we were never allowed to really think about that kind of stuff. It was so controlled and stuff. So it takes a little bit of practice. But the thing is like, this is deliberate. These are deliberate actions, not in perfection. And actually, when you think about being in perfection, there's more fun and laughter without the perfection. So if you think about, I remember the first time that I even saw our coach in online and stuff, I was like, what a dork. And throughout we've known him now for a couple of years, and seeing the mistakes that he makes and how he's got the biggest laugh of us all when he makes these errors, because we are human. That's part of the human thing, the human experience, is to not be perfect and to be able to laugh at ourselves.
Definitely. As a reminder, this isn't about intensity. It's more subtle changes. It's about direction and where you focus that energy. Because the energy follows what you choose to engage with. Yeah.
So when we say ambition here, what we're talking about is participation and choosing to direct your life instead of watching it happen. And so asking yourself, am I directing my life or am I just watching it?
Yeah. So, quick check-in with this. No overthinking now. Just which one are you here? Director or observer? Okay. Type it in the chat. I know for years I was just observing my life go, yes, sir, following direction. But I've become the director more so. I still need to take a step back and observe, right, what's going on. But
yeah. So one of the things with that too, I think, if we experience, like if we're feeling a little bit less unsure about ourselves, I think we have a tendency to be that observer instead of that director in our life. But it does take practice. I love Dee Dee says director. Treasure says she's an observer.
Yes, yeah, Ruby, I think it's possible to go back and forth. I do myself. Definitely. Yep.
So I want you guys to think about this next week. Think about the observer or director, and like look at yourselves throughout your week, and as you go through experiences and see yourself doing something, identify, am I an observer here or am I a director? Am I an observer or am I director? And see how many times you do go back and forth between that, because that's what we're going to be aligning to next week.
Yeah.
So we're pausing definitely on purpose here. Tonight wasn't about fixing anything. It was about helping you see clearly where you are right now, like seeing where you are able to learn calibration about that self-leadership, about that social interaction, and why it was so important. And we also, see those as skills, see them from a skills perspective instead of like a title or even like an action. This is like developing ourselves.
Then next week, we're going to take another look at alignment here. And because most people don't struggle because they lack motivation, they struggle because everything feels important at the same time. Okay, they haven't really thought about what really matters, and being specific. So it's a challenge to prioritize, and just everything becomes so urgent. And like we talked about before, they react to everything instead of being able to respond authentically. And that's where overwhelm takes over and begins to, grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're also going to take a look at our life, and we're gonna call them like arenas, our life arenas, and where life is really happening. And we'll share those. We're going to score them as well, so that we can start having some ideas of where we want to learn and grow.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed this discussion, we definitely want to invite you back to continue in the conversation here.
Yeah. So now it's your turn, and we would absolutely love to hear from you guys. So what stood out to you tonight?
Was there a new thought, a new distinction, an aha moment, right? An awareness, a light bulb go off in your head, or something you're seeing differently?
Yeah.
Throw it in the chat, blow that up, or come on stage, whatever you like. One person at a time, so the conversation it stays grounded and focused for you and everyone listening.
Yep, absolutely. So like John said, you can either put your ideas, your questions, your thoughts in the chat, or we'd love to have you guys come up on stage too. We want to hear what you noticed and what you learned. And like we said, this is social learning opportunity. Oh, I like that, Treasure. Thank you. We got a quiet night again. That's okay. We appreciate everybody's interaction with the chat. That definitely helps, because we want to make sure that we're hitting the mark with what you guys are looking for too.
And like always, if something lands later and I have some sort of thought or in hindsight, you can reach out to us personally, and DM us, and we'd be happy to engage and answer any questions.
Yeah, we have links on the YouTube channel where you can reach out to John and I. You can get on our calendar. We can have a conversation. All right. Well, we like to share a quote too, for those of you who may be new. A lot of times we like to share a quote at the end of the show, and tonight comes from John Gordon. He is one of our favorite authors and speakers.
And he's someone whose work has changed a lot of lives. Not through hype, but through clarity, consistency, and care. And that quote there, energy is contagious. Either you affect people or you infect people. I love that.
Yep. So that's a powerful reminder as we think about self-leadership as well as relational influence, and that energy that we bring into every room that we enter.
Hey, Leonard.
Hi.
Hey,
Leonard. Buddy.
How are you tonight?
Doing fantastic. Even better now, seeing your face, hearing your voice.
Thank
gonna-
you.
Let's pause for just a second and then we'll focus on. So Dee Dee brought up that for her it was realizing that I react without thinking. I'm aware of it now, but can't always put it into action. And so that's part of like what we're we want to bring different tools and tips and techniques and things like that you'll never be able to do it 100%, Dee Dee. It's something that we can build up our habits that can help us to start thinking and to start learning how to pause, so that we do recognize, okay, well, what's that emotion that's coming up, or something like that, and pausing it before we're reacting. And that helps us to learn how to put it more into action. So hopefully that kind of helps. Did you have something, John, before we jump into Leonard? I feel like we're putting him on hold.
Well, just to go on with what you said, it helps you. This work that we're doing here, among many other things, it allows you to respond authentically instead of react with emotion and impulse. You'll hear me say that a lot. It's a big part of my life. I'm not perfect either, but it allows you to step back, to take that pause, and either demonstrate that in real time or to come back and revisit it later when the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Leonard, what do you have for us tonight? Did Carolina win tonight?
Unfortunately, they didn't.
Okay.
Unfortunately, but I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I am learning how to forgive and move forward, and it has been difficult in these last couple of years because I had been so disappointed. I'll just say it, disappointed and hurt for so long. And I didn't want to forgive because, hi, Belinda. I didn't want to forgive because I was afraid of opening that door to be hurt again.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was just like, well, what's the whole point of forgiving? Because if I'm going to just be hurt again. And I just want to ask you both, how do you all feel about just letting go and just cutting off your biological relatives? Because for me, I never had that relationship, that family relationship that I wanted from my relatives. So how do you both feel about that?
Well, first of all, you asked why forgive. And that, to me personally, the way I see that, now I haven't always seen it that way, but I've learned that forgiveness is for you, not them. Okay. And that holding on to resentment and bitterness is like drinking poison, expecting somebody else to get sick. And the point of it is just that. It doesn't mean you have to continue to have that person in your life, allowing them to possibly hurt you again. And the way I've come to terms with that is, personally, their love is conditional. And I've just, it didn't happen overnight, but I had to come to terms with, in order for me to close that door, I've had to let them go. It's kind of, yeah.
I'm going to go, for me, I'm going to go back to the lesson tonight, and that lesson of self-leadership, that lesson of self. and becoming authentic to me, what was really important to me, and who I was. And I did a lot of personal work in the beginning when I was first getting ready to let them know that I was no longer going to be no longer going to be going to the congregation and stuff. I had to get that foundation of really who I am and what I remember the 3 words when we were talking about choosing the 3 words of who I wanted to be, right? So in that situation, I wanted to be authentic, not only with me, but with them. I also wanted to have love for me as well as them. And with that, I had to I had to have boundaries, so there were things that we initially had basically said, we're parting ways. And so part of parting ways meant that, have you ever heard that poem about if you love something, let it go, if it comes back? So that's basically what I had to do with my family. I do love my family. So that meant that I had to let them go. And if they ever do come back to me, then it was meant to be. If not, I have to love them from afar. And the other thing, though, is there was a situation where one of my family members overstepped their boundaries and misrepresented me because they wouldn't have the conversation with me. And so I held them accountable and said, help, and told them, you misrepresented me. If you want to understand where I stand, what I believe, where I stand, you are welcome to have a conversation with me, but it is not okay for you to misrepresent me like that again. So setting that boundary. So that's something really important too. So being able to love myself and have that authentic self within, for me, knowing who I am. So it means that I had to do the personal work, like what John and I were talking about, doing that personal work so that I know who I am, what's important to me, what hurts me, what stands, so that I can stand like with a strong foundation when, and I'm not pulled into arguments or debates and stuff like that with them, because I'm also speaking with love and I'm also speaking with boundaries. I'm not going to go one of those boundaries. I'm not going to sit here and debate with you. I'm not. I love you, but I'm not going to go there. And so being able, that was such a huge moment at that time. And it also keeps me going and recognizing that I can love them from afar. It doesn't mean that I don't miss them, but it doesn't destroy me, because it's important that I love me, if that makes any sense.
And remember that boundaries, without boundaries, people will continue to overstep, cross that line.
Right.
And we teach people how to treat us. And it's something that's learned over time, especially with family. I mean, people will know what they can get away with, even if it's subconsciously, and they'll treat you accordingly. And I think that if you do, start initiating and placing boundaries, that could take time for them to catch on. Oh, okay, finally, like, okay, he means it. Yeah. And it's like that is also a learned behavior. You start teaching people how to treat you, and you'll notice that once you have those boundaries in place and you start enforcing them, people, if they truly love you, they will start noticing and taking them and reacting or responding, I should say, to those boundaries.
The other thing along with that, though, remember how I said I spoke up to her and called her and set the boundary with her. So do not expect the people that you are setting boundaries with, do not expect them to get it through osmosis. You have to, and that's the reason that you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself so that you know what's important, so you know what boundary needs to be there, so that you can speak to that boundary, so that way it's very, very clear. And don't be surprised too if they do initially push back against that boundary. That's going to be natural because you haven't been there. So that it's like having that foundation, building on that, and having those firm boundaries so that you can protect yourself. And like John said, use that for teaching them how to treat you. But you can't expect to miraculously have them know it. You have to be able to be strong enough to share with them what your boundaries are.
And don't do it in an emotional state.
Yep.
Yeah. And I want to say, I don't hate my biological relatives. I don't necessarily hate them. I do forgive them, but I'm not totally I haven't totally forgiven them as of yet. I know I'm able to do it, but it just takes time for, the whole process to really come completely full circle, because they have been doing it for so long now until they feel like they are entitled to just do and say whatever they want to me. And then when I retaliate, it's, oh, you wrong, you disrespectful, you going to hell, and having that seed planted in your head for so long, it's like, well, okay, you walk on eggshells thinking that you are going to hell. Well, for me, I really did think that I was going to hell because I put up those boundaries, or I said something to they're crossing the line. So I just felt like, well, hey, if you don't respect me, if you don't love me enough to respect me, why should I have you in my life?
And that's, the thing too. How do they feel? Do they want you in your life? Do they want you in their life? Do you know?
From what I've seen in these latter years, well, through the years on end, from what I've seen, I really don't think so. I'm just gonna be honest. I really don't think they ever wanted me in their life, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would hope at some point they would, but the way that it is, I don't think so. It hurts.
Yeah.
For me to say that, but I'm just living in my truth with it now.
Yeah. So, like we were talking about earlier in regards to community too, is you can find community that makes you feel built up.
Yeah.
You can. And those are the people that deserve to be around you.
Yeah.
I want to say that again. Those are the people that deserve to be around you. The people that mistreat you, that's why it's important to have the boundaries. Because you deserve, all of us as humans, we deserve to be with people who care about us and support us and build us up and cheer us on for our crazy ideas of what we want to do.
That's right.
That is so true.
So that can be one of those questions that you could ask yourself as you interact with different ones. Does this person deserve to be in my circle? And with self-leadership, like what we were talking about tonight, you get to decide that. You get to decide that. Yeah. And you get to decide who the community is going to be that's going to be building you up. that make sense? Does that help at
It
all?
does. It does. Yes,
Good.
ma'am. It really does.
Leonard, please feel free to reach out to me or any one of either one of us, for a side conversation. Any questions? I'll be glad to work with you.
Oh, thank you. I do appreciate that offer.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
I'm going to get off and hopefully let somebody else take
All
a
right.
turn. Take a turn.
All right. Thanks, Leonard. It's good to see
Leonard.
you.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Linda says that she rejects those who I teach how to treat me, and then they continually trample over my boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Yeah.
So one of the things with that is definitely really important, though, when we decide to step away from those people, is how we feel about ourselves.
Yes.
Linda's comment actually to me felt like there's pain in there. And remember when I said my 3 words, one of my words is empowerment. It's like when I've set those boundaries, that was part of it, is that I want to show up in empowerment, not a dominating power, but more of an empowerment and love stance. And so being able to walk away from toxic environments or toxic patterns with love is so much more healing than walking away out of anger, out of some of those negative emotions. Does that make sense?
A very important pattern to recognize in those relationships, abusive or toxic, is that even with people that aren't respecting your boundaries, if you do step away, you stop calling, you stop texting, a few days later they reach out, hey, how you doing, miss you, love you, thinking of you, and then you get pulled back in. That's something to recognize, because that can go on forever.
Yeah.
And if you don't put a stop to it,
yeah,
somehow, whether it improves or whether you completely cut it off.
Yeah. And I think we saw that, like with you, if I can use you as an example, I think we saw that when we initially decided to step away from the organization.
Oh, yeah.
And we saw how they would have the hooks and kind of it was like they would pull you back in and stuff. And so being able to have those boundaries has been, and the boundary, it's like the boundary isn't about them. The boundary is about you. The boundary is about protecting you and protecting the love that you have for yourself and being able to stand in your truth.
It ain't some rule for them. It's a standard for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about that before. Yeah, definitely.
So Linda, are you saying that you're considering going no contact, or that you've gone no contact with those people? Yeah. Now I have a couple of people that I am still in contact with, but we also have we have an agreement. It's like we've got our own boundaries between us on even like the types of things that we'll discuss. So it's like we don't go there. And so we can continue a relationship, and because we don't, just because you're in a relationship too, A couple of them are coming to my mind, a couple of my relationships and stuff. Just because you have a relationship doesn't mean that you discuss everything and anything and everything in that relationship. Each relationship can have its own boundaries.
Absolutely, yes. Certain things you talk about with one person, for example, would not be a topic with someone else.
And that's okay. That's the other thing too, is that is absolutely okay. So did anybody else have any questions or thoughts? We went a little over again tonight, but this is one of my favorite topics too, to have a conversation about the developing the skills, and especially looking at it from a different lens, a different perspective, as you know, developing that so that we can have that foundation to where we can be more resilient, so that we can teach ourselves to be more resilient. Because like we talked about tonight, you know, adversity happens, life happens. And when that happens, we can get drugged down. And so what are some of those things, you know, that we can use to pull ourselves back up? So we appreciate everybody's interaction tonight. And hopefully this was a topic that related to you and it gave you some new ideas to have you go forward. And also thanks for your willingness for participation as well as reflecting.
Yeah. You know, these conversations, they matter because of the people who show up, right? For them, and thoughtfully and honestly, people who participate, the ones in the background, the chat. I mean, one who silently listen, and that's great. All of us, we truly matter and add value. You know, so if it resonates with you, this work that we're doing here, please like and subscribe, share. You know, with people who you may think, you know, could hear it, need to hear it. You know, because these conversations, you know, just by reaching others, they help them have a steadier ground to stand on. Right, the ripple effect can be just awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Linda, she's coming on.
Hello.
Oh, great. Hey, Linda.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I just wanted to share that there's a big difference between shunning and going no contact.
Mm-hmm.
Shunning is for the intention of punishing people in an attempt to change their behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and to publicly shame them and other things. But going no contact is an attempt to remove oneself from a toxic situation or relationship. So we remove ourselves from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's very different than punishing somebody else by not speaking to them or giving them the cold shoulder or treating them as though they're dead, you know, and definitely try to do what's called gray rock, where
Mm-hmm.
you're just kind of not feeding. Usually this kind of behavior of shunning and toxic behavior usually comes from a narcissistic background. So they feed off of our frustration or fear or pain that they might have caused. So if you don't give them a whole lot of attention, they'll find somebody else to suck up some energy from. And, you know, so they feed off of us, that kind of personality.
I want to go back to, once again, the topic that we talked about tonight in regards to the self-leadership and the social influence. And you talk about no contact. And then I want you to think about shunning. And I want you to think about, like, with the when we talk about those skills about self-leadership as well as the social influence compared to where shunning comes from. Can you see the difference?
Yes, I can.
And we had talked about that earlier, you know, like when we basically the way that we were taught that and that it was coming externally. So this is about teaching ourselves to what is important to us and being able to direct our lives based on what is important to ourselves. And so by choosing to go no contact with someone, that is a way of directing. Whereas if you are with the shunning, you can, if you are somebody who is being shunned, you could look at it as being an observer because you're allowing stuff to help happen to you. Does that make sense?
It does. So I would like to direct my life, and that's why I would choose to remove myself from a situation that I think is toxic, so I can actually be the director in this situation where I'm being shunned.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mind shift.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, oh my God, I'm not going to survive Armageddon. God doesn't even recognize my existence. I don't even deserve to exist. So I can do a mind shift and say, wait a minute, I'm being treated dishonorably. I'm being dehumanized because I'm treated as if I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
And what am I going to do about this? Okay, how am I going to direct myself as I'm being shunned? Okay, so then I empower myself from a situation and make my choices from there.
Exactly. Yeah. Bingo. Yay. I love it. I love it. Did this help tonight? Did this topic help tonight?
It did. My for some reason the video stopped for a while, and I kept thinking it was going to restart, and I don't know so I have to re-listen because I missed a chunk. But yes, I did appreciate tonight. And Sundays are my burnout day, so sometimes I'm just listening and not doing a lot of chatting in the thing. And I really appreciate the two of you and the subjects you bring up. They're very, very empowering for ourselves and things that we can do, mindsets that we can have that really do improve us as people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's I appreciate that.
Compliment.
I wanted to add too, before I forget the thought, about even the ones that are doing the shunning on the other end of it, their self-will or self-leadership is out the window. They've been so indoctrinated. They think it's a loving arrangement, right? God's arrangement. It's going to bring people back, and it keeps a lot of people in place just because they're afraid of losing.
Yeah.
It's anything but a loving arrangement. And it helps to take away the bitterness and the anger away from the particular individuals. Anyway, for me.
It does. It does. I actually consider people under the influence of a cult leader as being very similar to under the influence of a substance. So they would not ordinarily behave in this manner if they weren't under the influence of cult leader or meth, or you see what I'm saying? Because when they're not under the influence of these things, they would act in a more authentic way.
Absolutely.
They would be making their decisions. Yeah, they'd be making their decisions more from their own intuition, from their own reasoning skills. But that's been told to us that it's all evil. Within high control groups, they want to get that away. They want to squash that right off the bat.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too that John and I really noticed when we first got into this work. That was one of the things that we noticed was the commonalities, with me coming out of domestic violence, as well as even going through a cancer journey, as well as, thank you, John. And even like with John's experience with going to even like AA meetings and stuff like that, the commonalities and the cycles that all of this, these type of situations can put us in. So sometimes coming out, we can think that we are the only ones, but there are patterns out there, and the thing about identifying patterns is that it can help us to identify. Remember how that adversity pulls us down? When we recognize those patterns, it can help us to have the tools to have us pull us back up, so that we can have and experience the life that we want to have. We all want to be happy. We want to feel alive and stuff. So
doing this work helps you to build those coping skills. Once you're out, to build yourself back up and that self-leadership, and self-regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like these are all things that you're mentioning right now, John, that when I was even recovering from this organization, 7 or 10 years out, had no idea that those were even options. Like I didn't even know how to think in this manner.
Yeah.
Right.
So the things that you guys are presenting to us is like a whole new world.
I love it. That's the way we felt too. That was one of the things that when we like started experiencing this, I know like for John, I think probably more like when you really got clean, when you had been clean for a long period of time, and like where you kind of look up and you're like, oh my gosh, that's what a blue sky looks like. Like it's like some of those aha moments that you're like, wow, this is amazing. And to be able to experience that aliveness, there is nothing like it.
Yes, it's like this is a thing. This is an option.
There's a whole other world out here.
Yes.
Beyond the restricted zone that we were once in. So yes, it's so it really represents freedom to me. So I thank you guys for that.
The world isn't so evil as it was then presented.
That's right.
Yep.
If anybody has a chance, they can look up the word worldly. Check out what that says. It's good stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys.
Yep. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you, Linda. Appreciate you. All right.
All right, everybody. Well, we will see you next week, and we're going to continue. Oh, we've got Ruby now.
That's okay. Come on.
Hey, Ruby.
Oh, hey, guys. Quick question. The two skills. Skill one is self. Is skill two kind of like the observer or director? Because I think like self would be director, and the other one would be observer. Is that correct?
Actually, you become a director in both. If that's what who you want to, if you choose to be director, you would be like a director in like in your self leadership, in how you, in a sense, like command some of the things that you encourage yourself to do, and if we go just the simple thing of like looking at, you command yourself to go to bed, and that's like a strong word, but you command yourself to go to bed, you command yourself to eat well, you command yourself to move your body, and even like you might command yourself to read a book, and I'm using a strong word there. If you think about the interaction with people and when you are with community, you're a director there in that you're choosing the people, the type of people that you want to be associated with, that you're directing even like what you are going to allow that relationship to become. You're directing whether or not you want to collaborate with somebody to build something, for example, like people needed to collaborate to build a building. They didn't build it all by themselves. So there's a level of direction with that as well when you're choosing and building those relationships.
Okay, because I was just about to say that I feel like I switch between both all the time. It's like in and out, up and down, black and white. It always fluctuates. But I notice how now in this chapter of my life, I have been more of an observer than ever before.
Wow.
And that's new.
Is that where you want to be?
Definitely. I'm very comfortable watching, listening, learning, and staying quiet for once. Because I felt like I kind of grew up as a foot soldier for someone else. And I had to preach, I had to teach, I had to be an involuntary leader all of my childhood. So much so that I didn't have one. So I never knew what it was like to be a normal child. So and that's why sometimes now I feel childish, not in a bad way, but in a good way. It's like I'm enjoying going to the park sometimes, and I'm not ashamed of that anymore. But it's like those little things where I don't have to feel like I gotta be the one standing up and doing the public speaking or being the director and everything. I mean, it's a good thing to know those things, but I feel like that's not my calling anymore. It never was. I was always forcing myself. But now I actually get to be a peaceful observer, not always wanting to correct someone or get it right or memorize something or, like it felt like a boot camp all the time. It was like roll call all the time. Now I feel calm in that peaceful observer mode, but then I feel blank sometimes. Like if I'm not talking about something like the way I do with politics or with something else of interest, I feel like there's nothing else there. It's like a blank canvas that I don't know yet. It's blank. I want to get to know it, but I don't know where or how to start. It just feels blank.
I can't wait to get through this series and get through the rest of this series and see if it opens some stuff up for you. I do want to open up the idea though in regards to observer, with the role of a director versus a role of an observer. If you're in that role, you can be a director and observe. But being in that role of an observer is when life is happening to you, that you're just so right now you're choosing, for example, to take a step back and look and see what's going on. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're letting life happen to you.
Right. No, I definitely don't feel like that. I feel like I'm finally with it. I'm aligned with it now. So I don't feel like it's fleeting or if it's passing away. I feel like I'm present and I'm here. I'm watching and I'm finally in a good spot to watch without feeling like I'm being left behind or that things keep happening out of my control. I very much want to be in the front seat and I want to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of that would be the difference of like choosing to observe the situation, because it's important. I mean, we talk about it all the time, being very being present and having the pause so that you can pay attention to what is going on and having that clarity and stuff like that. So that is definitely important. The biggest thing is like that director mode versus the observer mode. Are you the one that's directing your life? That's what it would, and we're definitely gonna get into it more next week. So
okay, very good.
I'd like to have a thought just briefly. It feels good to be able to delegate certain responsibilities, whatever that looks like for each individual. But to if you lose, like somebody that hands over everything to a certain individual or organization, decision making, whatever it is, and then they lose that, or they come out of that, or they lose that person or whatever, then that can be a problem. So stay active, like and educated or capable in each role is very important.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like I'm right there. You explained it perfectly, because now I have to force myself to take the step first and do it myself so that I can teach my kids. And I'm right there because I feel like I should have somebody else telling me what to do, and there's nobody here to do that anymore, and that's scary.
Well, I cannot wait to get into pieces of this to see if you have any other aha moments and if it gets clearer for you on different ways. I know these were definitely new ideas for John and I when we were first learning them. So, and it was pretty exciting to me. So hopefully it'll be as exciting for you guys.
Definitely. Thank you, guys.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Ruby.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to see you guys next week with alignment and helping you to know where to start. So thanks for hanging with us tonight. It was a long show. This is our longest show.
I think so, but we appreciate each and every one of you, your engagement. See you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.